So there are a lot of ideas for milling up logs on bandsaws, and a lot of different jigs that are out there. Some very simple, and some that you can buy that some of them are kind of expensive. And so now that I got my new bandsaw, I wanted to be able to mill up logs into blocks or into boards like this one. So this is a piece of elm that I just milled up. I'm keeping them in blocks because I like the wood carve, so nice to have some of these big chunks like this. I can also cut them down into smaller boards if I ever need to. But let me show you what I've got with this jig. Okay, the first thing you probably notice is that I've got a clamp on here, and I've got it screwed into the back in a few places here. I have a small piece of plywood here that I screwed some small screws in that allow me to really get a good grip on the material. It also has this carriage piece here, and it's on drawer slides, so you can go back and forth. And I made sure that this is at 90 degrees from here to here. I have a T-track slot here. And what that allows me to do is to be able to lock this into position. When I've got it in my position, I can lock it in, and then I know it's not going to move when I'm making my cut. I have toyed with the idea of making something back here where I can move the carriage a known amount so I get consistent cuts, but I'm really not that concerned about it because I have ways of getting those consistent cuts, which I'll show later. Instead of having a piece of hardwood for the miter slot, I went ahead and I paid $20 for this aluminum channel. And the reason why I did that is because it has these kind of lips on the end that jut out, and that helps it, as I go through, it helps prevent it from tipping, because sometimes the logs I put on are fairly heavy. I have my bandsaw set up in this corner of my garage, and I've got this cabinet right here, and so because of that I ended up putting a little cutout here just so that it goes past that corner and I get a little bit extra length on that. I also cut this stick that I had drying to the same height as the table saw. That way when I am loading up some of the heavier logs on here, this helps prevent it from coming down on there, and that actually has been working well. So on my bandsaw with this jig on here, I can get just about 11, maybe 11 1/8 inches high that I can cut. That's actually pretty good because you start getting much bigger than that and the logs get pretty heavy. So if I want to cut anything bigger than that, I'll have to come up with a different solution. All I've got is this elm right now, but I like using it for carving. It actually works pretty well for that. So I'm going to slice this log into boards. I'm going to cut them to roughly 1 inch, and I want them all to be roughly the same size. So what I've done is I've got this block here. I'll loosen up my screw on my sled here, and I need to pull this whole thing back past the blade. And then what I can do is I can just move this all forward until it touches that block. Like that. So once it touches that block, I can lock the sled back in place, and then I can remove this block and then make my cut. So I had the drawer slides, I had this T-track, I had all the wood. I did go out and buy a new clamp for this, and I did buy the track. So I have about $30 into this, and it will definitely pay me back in just a few uses. So for some of the specifics on here, the clamp I put on is 3 foot long. I'll never cut something that long, at least not with this system on the bandsaw. But I'll be able to do anything from, you know, up to probably 24, 26 inches maybe, depending on how thick around it is. The sled itself is 36 inches long as well, and the drawer slides are 12 inches long. The miter slot runner was 48 inches long, and I cut it to, I think it was 40 inches long. That way it could stick out the front and the back a little bit to help with alignment a little bit more. And this was the reason why I wanted to build this jig. I tried to do this just using the table saw fence, and I was having some difficulties. Probably user error. Some of you are probably better at that than I am, but the jig certainly makes my job a lot easier. I also milled up some more elm logs earlier. I've got 2 different species of elm here. I'm not sure what the exact difference is, but you can see clearly this one's lighter than that. But I kept some of them in nice big blocks for doing some big carving, and I did cut some down into smaller. So I hope you found this to be useful. There's many different ways to modify this for your needs and considerations, but it's working well for me, at least so far. And I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.